Warning. The following program contains flashing imagery and content which may be considered harmful or traumatizing to some. Viewer discretion is extremely advised. Welcome to the darkest depths. Christopher Porco had been fighting with his parents Peter and Joan Porco for months. His grades in college were subpar, and his parents were to the point of issuing ultimatums to him. Porco had been forced to withdraw from the University of Rochester fall 2003 semester due to failing grades. He told his parents it was because the professor had lost his final exam, and he enrolled in Hudson Valley Community College for the spring 2004 term. He was accepted back into the University of Rochester in fall of 2004, but only because he had forged his transcripts from the community college. Porco again lied to his parents that the lost exam had been found, and said that the school was covering his tuition costs to compensate for the misunderstanding. In reality, Christopher had also forged his father's signature as a co-signer and taken out a loan for $31,000, which he used to pay his tuition and buy a new Jeep. When Peter found out about the loan, he was livid. He emailed Christopher with threats of calling the bank, and when his son didn't answer, he told him that if it happened again, he would contact the police. He followed it up by telling Christopher, "We may be disappointed in you, but your mother and I still love you and care about your future." Christopher Porco let 2 weeks go by, and then decided to take matters into his own hands, violently. Early in the morning on November 15, 2004, Christopher Porco disabled his parents' burglar alarm, cut their phone line, and crept into their quiet suburban home as they slept. He entered their bedroom and started swinging a fireman's axe at their heads, relentlessly chopping at his parents in the dark, over and over. When he was finished, Christopher got back in his new Jeep and drove back to the university. Despite his devastating injuries, Peter Porco didn't die immediately. In fact, he even got out of bed and went about his morning routine in a macabre daze. A trail of blood at the crime scene showed that Peter had walked to the bathroom sink, tried to load the dishwasher, packed his lunch for work, and written a check to pay for one of Christopher's recent parking tickets. He then went outside to get the newspaper, realized he had locked himself out, and somehow had the presence of mind to open the door using a hidden spare key, before collapsing in the home's foyer. When a coroner later examined him, they discovered that he'd been bashed in the skull 16 times with the axe, and was missing part of his jaw. When Peter didn't show up for work as a law clerk that morning, a court officer was dispatched to his home to check on him. He walked into the grisly scene and immediately called 911. Officers arrived to find Joan Porco still in bed, clinging to life. A portion of her skull was missing, as well as her left eye. She was rushed to a hospital and placed into a medically induced coma, but not before telling one of the officers that her son was the culprit. Christopher told police that he had been at the university all night, but once his alibi fell apart and security cameras caught him driving his new Jeep on the campus around the times of the attack, he was detained. Christopher Porco was arrested for his father's murder, and even though Joan had pointed the finger at her son as the attacker to police at the crime scene, at Christopher's trial she argued in her son's favor, saying that the real killer or killers were still on the loose. Christopher Porco lived with his mom during the trial and walked her to court every day. Despite Joan's pleas, Christopher Porco was found guilty of second-degree murder and attempted murder, and sentenced to a minimum of 50 years in prison. He still maintains his innocence to this day. Thank you for watching Darkest Depths. Follow on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok for the absolute worst that humanity has to offer in true crime and horror. Merchandise available through teespring.com. Episode requests made through darkestdepthstruecrime@gmail.com. No one is safe.